Councillors, it's just gone 4 p.m. Let's get underway. I welcome the councillors, the staff, and any members of the public to this ordinary council meeting of the 28th of February, 2024. Could I call upon Councillor Redwood to read the civic affirmation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We, the councillors of Armidale Region, declare that we will undertake the duties of office of councillor in the best interests of our community and faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in us to the best of our skill and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Redwood. And Councillor O'Brien, could I ask you to provide a recognition of the traditional owners?
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. The Armidale Regional Council pays tribute to their love of land, love of people and love of culture.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. I'll call upon the General Manager to make a statement regarding live streaming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recordings of the non-confidential parts of the meeting will be made available on the internet. No other persons are permitted to record the meeting unless specifically authorised by council to do so. And can we please set mobile phones and computers to silent, please? Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. General Manager. Councillors, I haven't received any apologies or applications for leave of absence, and I'm pleased to see it's probably the first time in a while we've all been here. So Councillor Redwood's not traipsing around the world, and others on various journeys. So it's great to have a full chamber. Councillors, can I ask, having reviewed the agenda, do any of you need to declare a conflict of interest?
Yeah.
Councillor Witters.
Again, can you
I think
have a look at the thing? 9.4 is it?
And 9.5.
Yeah, 9.4.
9.5 actually.
Yeah, just declaring that I now work for the Department of Climate Change, Energy, Environment and Water, where I think some of this might sit underneath, to not procure any interest, and I'll stay in the room.
Thank you. And Councillor Redwood.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just 10.2 is about my disclosure or updated disclosure of pecuniary interests.
Thank you. I might just make a correction. Actually, Councillor Witters, yours is 9.4. Yep. No, it's 3 and 4. But 4 primarily. All right. Thank you very much. Councillors, the first item we'll do in seriatim. It's items 5.1 and 5.2, and this is the confirmation of the minutes. So the confirmations of the extraordinary meeting held on the 24th of January 2024, and also confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 13th of December 2023. Could I have a mover for that, please? Thank you, Councillor McMichael. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Councillor McMichael, anything to say about the minutes? Councillor Redwood? All right, councillors, let's put that to a vote. All those in favour of accepting those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Witters. You're in? Okay, I declare that carried unanimously. The next item is item 6. It's a mayoral minute. So this mayoral minute highlights the burden of cost shifting from the New South Wales government onto local councils, and a recent report undertaken on behalf of Local Government New South Wales showed that $1.36 billion worth of expenses had been passed on to local government by the state government, and this equates to around $460 per ratepayer every year across the state, and that is climbing. A similar minute is being prepared by most other councils in order to put political pressure on the state government to take action on this issue. So it's a coordinated approach, and that coordination is happening via LG NSW. So as chair, I move this minute. I seek a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Redwood. I've said all I need to say. Councillor Redwood, anything to say about it? Any other councillors wish to make a comment? Councillor Robinson, then Councillor McMichael.
Yeah, this has been a bugbear for many, many years, almost as long as I've been on council. So let's just keep on with the argument. We've had past motions in previous councils, and let's just keep on with this until we get a fair amount of subsidies for what we do, because they're really, really important, our activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McMichael.
I'd commend the Mayor for this motion. The amount of cost shifting from both state and federal governments has been significant. If we look at libraries, recently the state government was going to give money to all councils for libraries, and they haven't done that. They've also had forced rates exemptions for significant numbers of private and government exemptions. Now, we know that that's useful sometimes, but that still gives us a smaller rate base to apply from. And one of the only reasons that we get money from is rates. And one of the issues for us when we apply for grants is the amount of time that it takes council staff to apply for grants, and those grants are arbitrary and we don't get them. So all the time it takes council staff to, if you like, waste time not getting money is exorbitant. So I commend the Mayor for this motion.
Thank you, Councillor McMichael. Councillor O'Brien.
Yeah, I also thank the Mayor and fellow councillors for advocating on an issue that's actually been probably one of the most urgent and important issues for about a decade now, because it impacts very much on the kind of services we can provide for our community. And it's also up to us too to educate or inform the community about the struggles that councils have being able to pay bills because of this cost shifting. The cost shift alone consumed 89% for 89 to over 110% of rural councils of their approved rate rises. So a lot of the rate rises are really just being totally there really because of cost shifting. Exemptions, as Sue said, is another one. Councillor McMichael said we still have to provide all these services to all these rate exemptions, like private, non-for-profit, private schools and public schools. And there's also the gap in services that councils often have to fill, like childcare. When the market fails in services, it's council that have to cough up for that. And so, in roads, reclassification of roads, and we know the amount of cost that the reclassification of the Kempsey Road has cost us, and the amount of staff time that it's taken up. So we as a council really urge the community to be aware of this cost shifting and with their own political power put pressure on local members to give councils a break and stop asking us to fund more than we have the means to do. This ends up coming back on the community lap, and I urge the community to support us in our advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would also commend this Mayoral Minute. It's been a long time coming, actually, and it's very encouraging to hear that there's a unified action on the part of all councils, all the local government sector, at least in New South Wales, in relation to this. Look, to the best of my recollection, the big issue of cost shifting was deliberately excluded from the Graham Sanson inquiry, which was the prequel to the Fit for the Future policy, which led to many of the forced mergers that are still contentious today. And I think that you cannot bury a huge mistake in history, and that's what's coming back to bite the local government sector firstly, but also hopefully whatever flavour state government chooses to take action on this, or the current one, hopefully. You just can't bury the fact that the local government sector's been mugged, if you like, financially by cost shifting, as my colleague Councillor O'Brien has said, for more than a decade, much longer than that. And so it's just interesting to just look back at history, and the state government has refused to recognise the financial impact of that, and here we are. So I support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, councillors, if there's nothing further, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 7.1 is the Council Actions Report. So this is a summary of the actions taken on resolutions of Council for the period January 2022 through to January 2024, and Council is being asked to note the report. The details of this are on page 10 of the agenda and page 21 of the attachments. The recommendation, as I said, is on the screen there. It's about noting the report. Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Robinson. And seconder is Councillor Gadders. Councillor Robinson, anything to add?
Thank you. I just would like to raise, as well as noting the report, just raise the issue of what happened to the action on the simpler financial statements. And I believe the General Manager might have something to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the General Manager wish to say anything on that?
No, been chased up.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Gadders? All right, any other councillors? Let's put that forward to note the report. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. The item 7.2 refers to the July 2024 Ordinary Council meeting date. The purpose behind this is to note that this is the final. The final meeting date will be on 24th of July 2024 for this term of council before. Because council will be going into caretaker mode in August, there won't be a meeting there. And that caretaker mode comes about because of the local government elections to be held in mid-September. Details of this are on page 11 of the agenda. So can I have a mover for a motion, please? Thanks, Councillor Gadders. A seconder. Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Anything to say, Councillor Gadders?
I look forward to the 24th of July, Mr Mayor.
Okay, we all do. Thank you. Councillor Redwood. All right, let's put that to a vote. All those in favour of noting that date? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, we'll do items 8.1 through to 8.4 together. We'll condense those together. These are the cash and investment reports from October 2023 through to January 2024. And they note the cash and investments for those months. I note that as at January 2024, Council held $117 million in investments and $12 million in cash. The details of this are from page 13 of the agenda. And with Council being asked to note that report, can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Packham. A seconder? Thanks, Councillor Gadders. Councillor Packham, anything to say?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's great that we can see that these reports are coming forward. If there's an upshot to the central bank raising interest rates at such a rapid rate, unfortunate for households, but fortunate for those that are trying to save some money, as is this council. I hope that we can put this windfall, if you want, for want of better words, perhaps towards seeding the future funds, and we don't use that towards simple recurrent expenditure, operating expenditure. I think it would be a great idea if we would set that aside. Nonetheless, my comment is great to see the reports come forward. It gives us a great vision of where we are and looks forward for the next 6 months to the end of the term. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Packham. Councillor Gadders. Thank you. All right, councillors, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour of noting those reports? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. We now have at items 8.5 and 8.6 the first and second quarter quarterly budget reviews. So these reports, they show a deterioration in the budget. We'll vote on these items together, 8.5 and 8.6 together. So there was a deterioration in the budget to the tune of $1 million. This is primarily the result of $800,000 of additional cost of the waste collection services, which has been recovered from the waste reserve. There are also expenses in the water fund due to reservoir cleaning, track maintenance, and development of a water security package, and that will be funded. That difference there will be funded by the water reserve. Details of all of this are from page 37 of the agenda and pages 44 of the attachments. So council is being asked to note the reports and the change in the financial position. So Councillors, we'll be doing 8.5 and 8.6 together. Could I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Robinson, and a seconder is Councillor Gillespie. Councillor Robinson, anything to say?
No, the only thing I was going to say you've already said, which is basically that one of the expenses will be looking for a consultant to find more funding, and so maybe that will reverse some of the impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gillespie.
I've got nothing.
Thank you. Councillor Packham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think you probably coined it, you said it's a deterioration of $1 million. My concern in general is that within 90 days of approving a budget, we've identified funding which is probably recurrent funding. My personal concern about that is that we charge our ratepayers for waste management, and now we have to take that from reserve, whereas the ratepayers are paying for waste management, and so it was always seen that they'd be paying for waste management. So to say that it comes from reserve does sort of concern me. The other side of that is that 270 days is left, or was left in that period, and I wanted to be able to see some representations on how we might be able to wind back that budget and stay within in those terms by squeezing or delaying other projects. I think I've said before, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So maybe some hard decisions need to be made about what we could have deferred just to keep on track. And it's a part of that representation that we gave to ratepayers when we talked about the variation, the SRV. And the SRV was at a time where we drew a line in the sand about the deficits we were running, the consecutive deficits we were running, and the long-term financial plan that would pull us out in the future and give all that money to invest. And so now I feel like I've got another $1 million that I've got to ask the ratepayers for, that in the end, in the 3 years' time, when we're peaking at what we're doing, and then we're only moving on to PEG, that's still not going to be recovered. We're 1/6 into that collection, having been 2 collections, July, November, and now tomorrow, February, which would make it even more so. And that's not going to cover this $1 million. So I just think that in a bit of reflection, is there potential when we do QBR3 that we may have actually found some ways to bring that back in? Having supported the cash and investment reports and the windfall gain of having more interest in this period than what had been budgeted, I'm hoping that we don't just, as I said, spend that to wash that and come back at the end of Q4 and look at us, we're back to where we were, and that be the excuse. Because, as I said, extra interest is a windfall gain, and we need to put that into the war chest of moving other initiatives forward, investing in our future as opposed to using it for operational funds. And the fourth thing is, as we know, we're supposed to grandfather in $1 million worth of cost savings year on year. I mean, you've got to preserve that in there. So it seems a bit cheeky to lose that in the first 90 days because of maybe an oversight. We just didn't budget for an expense that we could have possibly approved back there in June. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Packham. That's very detailed. Councillor Gadders.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be brief. Look, when we do look at the QBR1 versus QBR2 results, I, likewise with Councillor Packham, look forward to QBR3 because with 1 and 2, I think the hard decisions have been made and documented in the QBR1. As you see, there's no change going forward in QBR2, so I think those hard decisions were already taken into account. So we don't have a downward trend at this stage. It takes 2 points to make a trend. So it'll be interesting to see what QBR3 says. But as I said, I think the team's done well to work and make many of those hard decisions and potentially defer projects so that we don't have such a large ongoing hit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Right, councillors, if there is nothing further, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour of noting those 2 reports? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, item 9.1 refers to a public exhibition of a draft concept plans for East Mall. So the decline in vibrancy in the East Mall is a result of a number of factors, and one of those is that it's been exacerbated by poor layout and planning. This term of council prompted a review of the community plan. One of the outcomes was to progress or revisit the 2017 Armidale Mall vibrancy plan as it relates to East Mall. So from funding that was received via a voluntary planning agreement and in consultation with business owners and landholders in the East Mall, two concepts or two options for the layout of East Mall have been developed. So details of this are from page 49 of the agenda and 75 of the attachments. And Council is being asked to endorse the plans for public exhibition and receive a further report at the end of the exhibition period. So I'll call for a mover if I can. Councillor Robinson.
I'd like to move a slightly variant that it should be come up on the screen if we...
Thank you. So is there a...
Which if I can read it out if you like.
I will get you to read that out, but first of all, can you just confirm that what's on the screen is what you would like to see?
Yeah, that looks right.
Thank you. So, Councillor Robinson, maybe if you, yes, as the motion is now yours.
Yeah. So I need a seconder.
So if you can just quickly read it out, what it is that you're moving, and then we'll seek a seconder. Okay, Councillor Withers is seconding it. Councillor Robinson, would you like to speak to it?
Very, very briefly. I mean, I know that our malls are a very, very important issue for many members of our community, and both in getting value for money and also making sure that all the work's done to the satisfaction of our community. And one of the problems that we have is that probably half of all the councillors only saw some of these plans less than a week ago. So it really is important to put them, place them on public exhibition, and then once we get feedback from the community, hold a workshop just to work through all the issues, all the ideas, some of which can be very, very exciting, work through the key stakeholders once the submission period is closed to see that we get a good plan and one that represents value for money in the face of all the challenges that I know we're going to experience. And those challenges include the fact that since the mall was originally developed, we have Coles Complex and Centro, and we also have Aldi and Bunnings, which obviously is going to take traffic away from the mall. And however beautiful, and I think I really love, for example, Hannah's Arcade, however beautiful it is, we still need to find out how we can make it work better so that people want to go there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Withers, as a seconder, anything to say?
Yeah, it's good to see that this action is being taken. In 2017, being on the council then, all councillors were given a briefing by the King and Campbell, I think it is, off the top of my head, about the redevelopment of the mall, the Central Mall, as part of what it's called then. I personally would love to see some version of a straight road from Marsh Street all the way through to Jessie Street, but as the great Meatloaf said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So that I want to thank the staff for the work they've put into this. Thank Councillor Robinson for her amendment, especially Part B of the amendment, inviting the key stakeholder working group and all councillors to have a bit of a look at this. And I want to thank Chief Officer Boyce. I had a process question in regards to this and in regards to Part B of the amendment, and I want to thank him for being the lighthouse of Alexandria through an ocean of wailing sirens and getting me an answer to that process question. I wrote something on this, and I'm still tossing up on whether to say it because my values to me push me to say it, but I've decided not to. I think I've said enough about some of the process issues and questions I had in regards to this and the responses that I got given. I think the main thing here is putting this out on public display and getting the public to give their input to it. I know it's a big issue that they've wanted resolved for a long time, and hopefully at the end of it, the patronage of the mall all the way through becomes a lot more because it's better access for people to get to, and more shops get in there and more people start to use it. So once it goes out onto public display, make sure you put in your comments as a community, and give it a good thorough workout so the staff can then put in some more work to it.
Thanks, Councillor Witters. Councillor McMichael.
I'd like to thank Councillor Robinson for her amendment and echo Councillor Witters' suggestion that the public be involved in the 28-day public exhibition process, and just reflect a little bit on our process and what happens. People see us or hear us at a council meeting, but in fact, as councillors, we attend a significant number of other meetings about issues that are of interest to us. For example, Councillor Witters and I are involved on a health project, and some of the councillors have been involved in this motion and have done work with the staff and the shop, the people involved in the East Mall, and all the stuff. So you know, and so these motions don't come out of nowhere. They come out of hard work and meetings and ideas and suggestions and things. And it's always interesting what motions come up and when they come up. So thanks to everyone for all their hard work. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor McMichael. Councillor Packham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Time is of the essence, and I'm wondering if I could ask the mover of the motion to avoid dragging this out, whether we could change that to a period of 28 days and be more succinct than for a period of not less than, because it's, you know, where do we stop that? So can I ask that question of the mover, please, of the amendment?
Well, I'm happy to change it, but I mean, I think maybe the staff should also have some flexibility in that. So maybe if it was 29 or 30 or 31, because it is always very good for the public to be able to submit things over the weekend, because lots of people leave things to the last minute. And if they, so I prefer to say just, I think we should probably leave it and just convey to the staff that our sentiments are that it should be fairly close to 28 days.
Okay, thank you. I take that as a no. That's a no. Thank you. All right, Councillor Redwood.
Can I ask how long not less than 28 days is?
It's nearly.
Okay, so it could be 100.
Maybe a week.
Could be. Okay, well, councillors, let's hope that this, with the staff, sensible heads will prevail. I have every faith that they will. Councillors, thanks for your input. Let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. The next item we have is item 9.2, and this is in relation to a planning agreement for 2 Coventry Street, Guyra. So it's around facilitating the development of an industrial subdivision at 2 Coventry Street, Guyra. Details are from page 59 of the agenda and 111 of the attachments. There was a recommendation, it's back. There is a recommendation on the screen in relation to that voluntary planning agreement and how it will be applied. Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Mepham. And a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Gilletley. Councillor Mepham, anything to say around this?
I'd just like to thank staff for the work they've done on this, in assisting the development move forward with his plans. I note that it's triggered an understanding that we don't have a voluntary contributions plan or a strategic plan for water in Guyra, and I hope that we'll progress those quickly as a result of having to go through this process.
Thanks. Thanks, Councillor Mepham. Councillor Gilletley.
No, this is good. This is showing that we have got flexibility and we're not just sticking to what the original was that we got from, or that the client got from 2010, that would have just about put it out of most people's pockets to have to do all that work on the paving and the guttering. But no, good work for bringing a bit of common sense into this and making it so it is actually doable for the developer. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Galletley. All righty, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour of accepting that, I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Councillors, item 9.3 is in relation to updating the Renewable Energy Community Benefit Framework, which Council adopted last year. And so the idea behind that framework was to provide clarity as to the expectations of those renewable energy developers when coming into our region. And that first version of the framework defined an appropriate contribution as 1.5% of the construction cost of a project. Now, since that adoption, or the adoption of that framework, the New South Wales Department of Planning and Environment has released draft guidelines, which we'll see in item 9.4. And those guidelines define an appropriate contribution in terms of dollars per megawatt of capacity. And those dollars in 2023 terms are $850 per megawatt for solar and $1,050 per megawatt for wind. It's recommended that the ARC framework be updated to reflect those recommendations from the department, because for a number of reasons, but it's easily quantifiable. It will become an industry norm so that the developers won't be surprised, and it will also relate to the lifetime of the project. So there's much more juice in that lemon. Details of all of this are from page 64 of the agenda and 129 of the attachments, and there is a recommendation on the screen. So Councillor Galletley is moving that. Councillor Robinson can second it. Councillor Galletley.
There's been a lot of work over the last few years through a lot of different parties to try to get a bit of common sense coming out of the government. It takes a bit of doing getting the Macquarie Street fellas to listen to a lot of stuff. I'd like to thank the Mayor, who pretty well one of the first major things that he took on was to realise that this was something that we really need to do, because we didn't have a stick in this fight as far as local government goes. We were left out of it pretty well on the shelf. Little steps are good, and we are making ground on a lot of this renewable energy stuff, getting a little bit more of a say in it. We wish we could have a bit more, but I do commend this council here, because all the smaller councils around us didn't quite have the voice that we had, and we were probably, and especially our mayor, pioneered a lot of this to start to get a lot of people listening and shook the tin. So I think this is a great start to it all, but there's a hell of a lot more yet to do as far as us being in a renewable energy zone, that's for sure. But thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Galletley, on so many levels. Councillor Robinson, anything?
Yeah, I just want to echo the same sentiments and thank the Mayor first for his input into this process that set 1.5% as the industry standard, and then managed to convince the New South Wales government that this should be an industry standard for all of New South Wales. I think that's a tremendous achievement, and I'm quite happy to say that whether it's in terms of dollars per megawatt or dollars per construction cost, it's probably actually going to be slightly better off under the new thing, as if the cost of construction per megawatt goes down. So thank you very much for doing this, and I look forward to some cheap renewable energy plans. Now you've got all your wonderful negotiation powers into and enough refined them to perfection. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Redwood.
Well done, Mr Mayor, and yes, I'm looking forward to plugging my electric lemon juicer in to get green energy to be able to juice those lemons even harder.
Very good. All right, councillors, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Councillors, item 9.4 is actually about us noting the updated framework that was referred to in item 9.3. It's the details of page 67 of the agenda, but I would encourage certainly those that are watching to have a look at the attachments. And so from page 133 of the attachments, it's very easily digestible the way it's laid out. So if you're at all concerned or interested in what is going to be happening in our region and the framework that governs that around renewable energy, please have a look. So Council's being asked to note the framework. Could I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Galletley, and seconded Councillor Robinson. Councillor Galletley, anything to say?
Same but different. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson?
Thank you, it's noted.
Brilliant. All right, let's move to note that framework from the government. Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, we now move to the 10 series. So the first one is the Integrated Planning and Reporting Delivery Program. It's a progress report on the IP&R documents with details from page 75 of the agenda and 295 of the attachments. The recommendation on the screen is that Council note the progress of both the operational plan and the delivery plan. Could I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Robinson. The seconder is Councillor Redwood. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. Well, this is a huge body of work, and I would encourage everybody, all our ratepayers, to read it and see what Council has been doing. And the only one thing I would like to draw particularly to people's attention is the financial modelling of scenarios for the both the financial state for the water security programme. So let's have a look at that and see what you think. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Redwood? No. All right. Let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Well, this is a toughie. Item 10.2. Tabling of the updated disclosure of pecuniary interest for Councillor Redwood. Council is being asked to note that update with details from page 78 of the agenda and 295 of the attachments. And I encourage everybody to look at that in great detail. Can I have a mover? Thank you for noting that report. Thanks, Councillor Robinson. And a seconder, thanks, Councillor Gadders. Councillor Robinson?
Thank you. Noted.
Brilliant. Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I might just add that Councillor Redwood has been selected to sit on the board of State Cover, which is an insurance body that looks after the workers' comp for local government. So it's a huge honour to be on that, particularly for a first-term councillor. So well done, Councillor Redwood. All right, councillors, item 10.3, the customer service promise. So following a period of exhibition and one submission received from the public, it is recommended that Council adopt the customer service promise. Could I have a mover for the motion on the screen? Thanks, Councillor Redwood, and the seconder can be Councillor Robinson. Councillor Redwood, anything to say?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's important that we make promises and two-way promises, and it's a wonderful move forward in that it's our commitment to the public, but it's also us for a commitment back from our community to behave and treat us in a certain way too. So I think it's an important move, particularly in this day and age. So well done.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Yes, I think it's a very, very important document, and let's hope, I look forward to seeing all the principles put into practice.
Thank you. All right, councillors.
I'll have a chat on that.
Oh, Councillor Witters.
Promises. Anyone wants good advice on promises? Watch the Bluey episode about promises. Good watch. If you make a promise, especially in this industry, you have to stick by it. You're the leaders of the community. The community looks to you to be the beacon of light in regards to it. If you want them to stick to their promises, you need to stick to yours. So as councillors, council staff, we have that duty, and as community members, if we give you and stick by our promises, then you have the duty to stick by yours. All right? So just remember that.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. All right. Nothing further. Let's pop it to the vote. All those in favour of adopting the customer service promise, I thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. All right, councillors, item 10.4 is in relation to some appointments, or the appointment of 3 independent members to the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. There are 5 points that we're being asked to vote on. Firstly is to thank Michael O'Connor for his term of service on the ARIC, which is finished up. To endorse the reappointment of Phil Thomas and Jason Masters as independent members for a period of 4 years. To endorse the appointment of Susan Lay as an independent member. It says up there for 3 years. Would that be 4 years? Can I just ask the question? Yes, it
is 4 years.
Thank you. So on the fly, if we could change that to 4 years, that makes me, the pedant in me is happier with that. We are asked to reappoint Mr. Phil Thomas as the chair of ARIC, and note the remuneration of that committee is governed by a previous approved policy of council. So, councillors, with that up there, can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Packham, and the seconder is Councillor Redwood. Councillor Packham, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's great to see that we are formally thanking Mr. Michael O'Connor for his service. We mentioned it in the previous council meeting, but it's lovely to see that's formulated into a recommendation and a motion of council. Moreover, though, it's great to see that we are able to attract and retain such qualified members, independent members to the ARIC, and the addition of Susan Lay and her qualifications should be absolutely valuable, invaluable addition to moving ARIC forward for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Redwood.
No, just to support what Councillor Packham said. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, anything to add before we go to the vote? All right, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, that brings us to item 9.5, again in relation to the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. It's around the option to appoint a non-voting councillor to the ARIC. The council staff are seeking our direction as to whether or not councillors wish to appoint a councillor as a non-voting member of the ARIC. Now, there is a recommendation on the screen, but Councillor Robinson, I believe you would like to propose a different
Yeah, I'd
motion.
like to propose an alternative, if that can be put on the screen, which is to call for written expressions of interest from councillors who meet the criteria, and then until a councillor representative is appointed, that the ARIC continues to function with the 3 independent members. But also, while we don't have a councillor representative, I'll better just read it. Just at any time a request is supported by 3 or more councillors to add an item to the ARIC agenda, can be forwarded to the chair for tabling or consideration, and councillors have the option of attending ARIC meetings as observers. So if I can get a seconder, I will move that.
Thank you, Councillor Packham. There's a seconder there. All right, Councillor Robinson, would you like to speak to that further?
And I will say that if we want to, we can actually vote on these issues in series or seriatim. Well, the first thing is it's probably better if we have written expressions of interest, and so that the councillors who want to put in an expression of interest can actually explain why they meet the criteria and why they want to serve on the ARIC committee. But there is always a possibility that this will never happen, or at least we've got lots and lots of busy people, and maybe it makes up, maybe people might not put up their hands immediately. And so it's also worth considering to make sure that the councillors do have input until a councillor representative can be appointed. And one thing that's been discussed previously is that if 3 or more councillors want something to be put on the agenda for the ARIC, then they just put it in writing and they will forward it to the executive, and the executive can then forward it to the chair of ARIC, who has the final decision about what is and what should not be in the agenda. That, according to the terms of reference, is the prerogative of the chair of the ARIC. And the only other final thing is that our terms of reference are pretty silent about whether councillors can or cannot attend ARIC meetings as observers. But I have sort of had discussions, there have been several training sessions by LG, NSW, and they all say that, with the permission of the chair at least, that councillors should be entitled to attend ARIC meetings as observers. They can't say anything, they can't, all they can do is observe, and if the chair doesn't like it, then he can throw them out. But I think that is probably something that's worth reinforcing, to say that, you know, the more councillors participate in these things, and the more transparency and the more knowledge they have of these things, the better governed our council will be. So I'll just say that, and if there are any problems or objections, then I'll reserve my right of reply.
Before you go, and maybe before we throw to the seconder, would you prefer to vote in seriatim on these?
I have no particular preference, but if anybody wants to vote against one of them, then we could vote in seriatim. So let's wait and see what the
How about a suggestion? Let's vote in seriatim so that we don't knock it out and have to come back. Are you comfortable with that, Councillor Robinson?
Yeah.
Councillor Packham, are you as a seconder?
Yes, I'll support that.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, let's take it one at a time. First of all, just make sure that our tech's up to date. We good? Okay. So just on the first point there about calling for written expressions of interest from councillors meeting the criteria, that they meet the criteria to be a non-voting member to join the ARIC, should they?
So
I think we might talk about.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, can I just ask the question procedurally whether it remains that Councillor Robinson is the mover and I am the seconder for each of the in seria pieces?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Actually, yes to that, but maybe let's have a discussion and then go through and just knock out the vote. So let's have a global discussion now, and then go and vote on the individual items. So, Councillor Robinson, you've said your piece. You're happy. Councillor Packham, would you like to speak about them?
About item one? Yeah.
Actually, no, about all of them. Let's discuss all of them.
Fine. That's fine. I can talk globally. But I will chase number one first. I think that this is a prudent move to ask for an expression of interest rather than asking this chamber here and now today to exercise the option or otherwise. The point of having an expression of interest will tell whether there's anybody actually interested and who feels that they're qualified, and perhaps that qualification needs vetting before, before an open vote here today where that vetting hasn't actually occurred. And I would rely on the Chief Governance Officer to work through that vetting process, I'm presuming. So that takes number one. Number two is a given that should there not be a member brought forward, expression of interest, and then voted on, they will continue. So there's no constraints on ARIC from continuing from this day forward with the three representatives that we voted for in the previous item. Number three, I am guarded about this, and I think prudently so, that I would not like to see erroneous matters brought before ARIC. I believe that they need to be constructed, they need to be concerned, and they need to be parameters set around what types of items are brought forward. I think it's a good idea, but I think I am guarded, and I would take guidance from the General Manager and Chief Governance and technically the Chair of ARIC to formulate how that should come forward. It can't just be an erroneous question or asking them for an erroneous inquiry, however meritorious, without some boundaries. So I'm for it, but I would like to see us work on that. And again, item 4, councillors attending as observers. In my experience in other jurisdictions, I found that to be actually useful. There is a lot of discussion around risk. It's not so much the item, but risk and the evolution of how independent people from council think about certain matters that are brought before council. So certain councils find that useful to start to understand the concepts a little better about what's going on, light bulb moments, all that sort of thing, without actually being, part of that conversation. So I'm in support of it, but we'll see how today rolls.
Thank you. Councillor Gladley.
Just a couple of questions here to whoever wants to answer them. Is this model that we're using now, is it broken? Do we have to make it more complicated? And I'm just wondering, what are we gaining by actually doing this? I'm having trouble getting my head around it, because we put this group together, and here we are, we're putting more people in there. And as far as I can see, usually when it's councillors are concerned, when they come into it, it seems to confuse things and clog things up, because these are qualified people that are sitting on this board. If it's not broken, why fix it? So I'm asking first off, do we have trouble? Have we had trouble in the past? Do we have trouble with the current ARIC that we've got? And why? What is the advantage of trying to change this to put someone? I think Councillor Packard said he'd be very surprised if anyone really wants to do it by the sounds of that, or is capable of doing it. So I'm just a bit curious why we're making it more complicated than what it has to be.
Thanks, Councillor Gladley. I might just make just how this change from the recommendation came up, and then I might ask the General Manager to explain specifically your answer. The question that was initially put forward required us to determine now, as in today, which councillor would like to sit on the ARIC, and I think that was sort of deemed probably a little bit too soon for us to do that, for the reasons that Councillor Packham laid out. We have to do some vetting, etc., etc. So I certainly think item 1 is about leaving that option open, which is consistent with the terms of reference that we voted on around ARIC last year. In terms of whether it's the current model's broken, etc., etc., I'll ask the General Manager if he could make a comment on that.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It's a little bit of a loaded question. Thank you for deflecting to me. No, it's not broken. I mean, to just answer your question up front, and honestly, no, it's not broken. I think the ARIC here works as well as any ARIC that I've ever seen or been involved with over a long period of time. Well, probably the best ARIC I've ever worked with. It's made provision for councillors to be able to come in prior to the actual ARIC meeting commencing and have a pretty frank and fearless discussion with anyone that's interested, I must say, to come in and have that discussion with the ARIC and the chair more broadly. And so those opportunities are there. I think what has been able to happen through this ARIC is that there's been a significant amount of trust that's been built up between the ARIC and the staff. I make, whilst the guidelines or the terms of reference just talk about myself and the manager of governance being involved, I make sure that the whole of the exec team are there and part of that on every time it meets. So again, because everyone has that particular role as far as ARIC goes, I think there's been a significant amount of trust that's been built up between ARIC and the staffing group. We have a lot of staff that come along and present to ARIC, and they do so in a really open and fearless way, which perhaps hasn't always been the case here, and certainly hasn't always been the case in other councils that I've been involved with. And I think in some respects the way that can deteriorate is if the behaviour is sort of punitive or combative in those environments. Then what that will tend to do is drive discussion and open discussion underground a little bit. And again, I've seen this happen previously, and you end up having meetings within meetings, so that the chair feels the need to convene a meeting after the official meeting where where unnecessary or unpleasant behaviours might have occurred, so he or she can get the information that the ARIC needs so they can make informed decisions. And ultimately their role is to decipher all the information that comes to them. They will let me know if they think there's any issues, and as you know, you get regular reports out of the ARIC. And of course, if there's something that's incredibly important or they think's going awry, then they've got a responsibility to address that with the mayor and myself, and then council more broadly. So, to answer your question directly, no, it's not broken. It works as well as any ARIC I've ever been involved in. But thank you for the question.
Thanks, Mr General Manager. That's why I deflected it to you. Councillor Packham, your light's on. You have spoken, but is this in relation?
No, well, it was an open question.
Yeah, it was an open question. I just wanted to confirm you were answering the question.
So procedurally, I'd like to answer the question. I think what the General Manager said is great, and it is what it is functioning, it has functioned, and all the rest of it. I take the point that if the Chair feels that something isn't going right, he has the option in the terms of reference to come back to the General Manager and the Councillor and the Mayor to actually discuss why that might be starting to break down. Why do we want it to break down? We don't want it to break down. We don't anticipate things being broken before it's, before we have a go of it. The arguments for the merit of what we're voting on today have already been deliberated and passed by this chamber. It's just now the execution of the decision of this council. So to retrospectively go back and still question those merits when on majority we're at this point, this juncture now. Again, great to hear that it's all working well, does work well. I don't anticipate anything falling awry, but I don't plan for it to fall awry either. So let's just move forward with the execution of execution in the right way, not the execution being the death knell of such a great initiative in the ARIC. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor McMichael.
I was just going to say that with number 3, the General Manager mentioned that we have had the ability as councillors, any of us, to go to the meetings beforehand and speak with Eric and things. The people who are councillors who are able to be on Eric are very well defined. I'm not going to be on Eric as a councillor and things. So I'm not very. I mean, I didn't think of it, but I don't know that 3 or 4 are necessary.
Thank you, Councillor McMichael. Councillor Gadders. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just offering a fairly simple opinion. So I agree for the most part with Councillor Packham's comments on each of the 4 points. For me, ARIC is an oversight body or function. I think they're doing a great job. We have the opportunity prior to an ARIC meeting for a briefing session. And I think that in those meetings, if we choose to attend, we get to see the highlights of what is required or any risks that are pointed out to us. For myself personally, I'm happy to see those highlights rather than need to sit through an entire ARIC session. I'd rather let the people get on with their job in that particular area and only be, shown the risks or the highlights as we need to. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Connor, you don't need to.
Oh, look, I just wanted to add that, and I support all the comments that have been made, but the ARICs are a sort of, they were new about, I don't know, about 8 years ago or something, and they've gone through various iterations, and it's just great to hear that they're going really well. But it was never the intention, I think, if there's a particularly gifted councillor who has a particular interest in risk management, I think it's more than appropriate. And as Councillor McMichael's pointed out, they're going to have to be qualified to be on that committee. They don't have a vote. I think it's great to give the option and to offer that option, especially as we're moving into a period where this council will come to an end and there'll be a new council in September, to be able to roll over optionality, if you like, for who knows what gifted councillors might be elected in September. So this provides a framework for something that's working well to work even better.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Witters.
Yes, having done ARIC training or audit and risk training in 2018, I think it was from memory, over in Inverell, and knowing that there's other councillors on here that have sat on other ARIC boards, and there can see at least 5 or 6 qualified councillors within the chamber. It is a very niche sort of idea, but I think it's something that if that's your area, it's good to get in, and then from there you may end up like Councillor Edward has on other boards, and using your skills there. So it's a good opportunity to, I suppose, expand your horizons if that's your go. I like the fact that there is an expression of interest. I think it should be the model followed for a lot of things where we have to vote for a councillor to do something here instead of just being a quick straw poll. It really gives you the opportunity to determine on who the best candidate to go to certain things is. So that's a good point, and maybe should be put into all policies. From memory, there is a pre-meeting briefing for councillors with the chair. From that, I think that can stay in regards to this. The other issue is if whoever the councillor is needs to remember that they're representing the councillors, so keeping them informed on what goes on in ARIC, and if any major issue comes out of that, would be the only responsibility I'd like to see them be proactive in.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. Councillor Galletley.
My other question, but that didn't get answered. What is the advantage of putting these amendments in? What are we going to gain out of making it a bit more complicated rather than just keeping it simple? I mean, it's been drawn up for probably. I can't see the advantage, but please someone tell me what the advantage is of having changing this. Thank you.
And so just for clarity, you're talking about items 3 and 4? Yes. Correct. Yep. Okay. All right. Councillor McMichael, you'll have a go at answering and then we might throw to the vote.
So, as Councillor O'Connor said, the ARICs are relatively new, and so they have changed over time. We have not had, this council has not had a councillor representative previously. We have agreed to have one, and this is defining how the councillor representative would behave. And so this is to clarify who would be on it, how many, and things. I mean, we're only here till July. The next council will go on, and so they need the recommendations and the ideas for the next ARIC, which goes on ad infinitum.
Thank you, Councillor McMichael. Councillor Packham.
Thank you. I'll leave to answer the question that Councillor Murphy said that wasn't answered in terms of items 3 and 4.
I think it's items 3 and 4. Item 1 and 2 are kind of...
No, I'm restricting my responses to items 3 and 4. Yep. My understanding is that the General Manager and the Chair of ARIC typically get together and determine the agenda. So the benefit of having potentially the support of 3 or more councillors who wish to add an item to the ARIC agenda is just to get that attention, and perhaps it's a pathway for the GM and the Chair to actually accept an item onto the agenda, which that pathway potentially wouldn't exist if it was only the GM, the avenue was only the GM and the Chair determining the agenda. And I think I did answer number 4 in my reply to the first round, is that, in my opinion, councillors who wish to be that far engaged get a better understanding of the issues before council. As Councillor Witters had said, the initiative to have a pre-meeting meeting with councillors who may not end up being on the ARIC or otherwise is actually a brilliant idea. I've never seen it happen before. So that's a first for this council, and it should be applauded. And that would put most things into layman's terms of the concerns and issues that councillors are talking about. Or, what does the Chair think is a concern that we should be concerning? Remembering that ARIC is a committee of this chamber of the councillors. It's not a committee of council. It's a committee of the collective council. And they're working on our behalf. So it's great to have that interaction. And that's I'll leave that at that.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Are you just going to be answering a question?
Well, I wasn't going to answer a question. I was just thinking, partly because of the debate and partly because this was something we didn't quite get right on it. Instead of saying forwarded to the Chair for tabling in item 3, I was thinking, with the permission of the seconder, to rephrase that as forwarded to the Chair to consider adding to the agenda, because that's more consistent with the terms of reference, if that's okay.
Thank you. And I can understand your point there. It doesn't mean that whatever is forwarded lands on the agenda, but it's up to the Chair to
it's up to the Chair to actually decide if it goes on. So just take out for tabling.
It softens that. So, Councillor Pack, we probably do need to land on this. Councillor I know Councillor Gilletley's got the mic. We'll come back to you, but I just need to see if Councillor Packham is happy with that.
Yes, I am, Mr Mayor, and as I had said in my discussion before, I want to be guarded about this thing, and it has to be prudent and process-driven. It can't be erroneous or otherwise. So yes, I do support that it should be considered for tabling and not absolute for tabling.
Thank you. Now, coming back to Councillor Gilletley, because this discussion has been around your questions.
Yeah. Well, just with that question, yes, I could be completely wrong here, but I remember being one of the first people there to attend as looking at this, and myself and Councillor Redwood turned up. And that's probably 12 months ago, maybe, might be that long ago. And to my knowledge, I don't think any other councillors turned up to the pre-meetings to do this. So I'm not too sure whether it's been used as such, even though we've got it up there. So all I'm saying is that if we can keep it simple, stupid, it makes it a lot easier for a lot of people rather than making it more difficult by adding more stuff to it.
Thank you, Councillor Gilletley. So that's your question dealt with. Councillor McMichael, you'll be speaking more broadly on what's up on the screen. We don't need any more questions. Councillor Gilletley's questions answered.
I have a suggestion about number 3 and a response to what Councillor Gilletley said. And so I would suggest, just because we can't all attend all meetings doesn't mean we're not interested in all council events. That's my response to Councillor Gilletley. And just regarding the number 3, could if the mover was interested, we could say a request in response to the ARIC Charter or something like that.
Look, I am concerned, councillors, that we're just trying to do too much refining on the run, and we're wordsmithing unnecessary. That's my thing. So we might just land that. Councillor O'Connor.
Look, I'm going to offer that a motion that we put the motion. If you don't.
Okay, we now have a motion to put the motion. I'm all for that.
Do I get a right of reply first?
Well, for your right of reply, but Councillor O'Connor actually has it. If Councillor O'Connor has withdrawn her motion to put the motion, but Councillor Robinson, as she's withdrawn, yes, you have a right of reply, and then we'll put the motion.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to very, very briefly say that obviously 1 and 2 are looking into the process of choosing a representative if we can find a council representative for ARIC. 3 is common sense, in the sense that if councillors, and a particular group of 3 councillors, have an item they believe should be on the agenda for ARIC, then it just makes sense that it's just really specifying how councillors can get items on the agenda. Otherwise, you might find that, you know, 1 councillor or 2 councillors is going to write to the chair of ARIC, or you might get 5 councillors writing the same thing independently. So this is a way of formalising the processes, will make things simpler and more streamlined. And the reason for 4 is it's always good to have security, even if you never use it. There may be times when councillors will have a burning desire to attend an ARIC, and councillors, LG NSW tells me that councillors are encouraged to attend ARIC. That's basically the formal procedure and if LG and NSW and their trainers say that councillors are encouraged to attend ARICs if they want as observers, then we should probably just formalise that rather than having the terms of reference silent on it. It may be that 1 councillor will attend only once in a blue moon, but there may be a very, very good reason for that. And if there's any good reason to reject it, then I think we should approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, councillors, we'll do this in seriatim. We just confirm we're good for that electronically. All right. Point 1, about calling for EOIs and the process there. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare that carried 10-1. Item 2, until a council representative is appointed, the ARIC will continue to function with 3 independent members. Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 3, this is to do with requests from 3 or more councillors for consideration whether something goes on the agenda. All those in favour? I declare that carried 10-1. Item 4, councillors have the option of attending ARIC meetings as observers. All those in favour? 1, 2, 8, 9. I declare that carried 9-2. The nots were Copeland and Gadders. Well, thanks, councillors. That was a long, torturous way to get there, but go us, we did it. Alrighty. Item 10.6 is the public interest disclosure policy. So this is to do with following a period of public exhibition. It's recommended the council adopt the public interest disclosure policy, noting that no submissions were received. Can I have a mover for this, please? Thanks, Councillor Redwood, and Councillor McMichael is the seconder. All right. Anything to say, Councillor Redwood?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor McMichael?
No, thanks.
I think we're all good to go to a vote on this one. All those in favour of adopting said policy? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 11.1 is around consultant engagement for the Glyra flood study and drainage strategy. So it's to propose that WRM Water and Environment be engaged to undertake the said study and strategy as an exemption from tender requirements under section 55(3)(1) of the New South Wales Local Government Act. Details of this are on page 96 of the agenda. And there is a recommendation on the screen. Do I have a mover? Thanks, Councillor Mepham. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Mepham, anything you might wish to say?
Only it's something that needs to be done. We highlighted earlier through the VPA process that we needed to have such a strategy in place. Would have made things a lot simpler for the DA and the developer, so good on us.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Yep, it needs to be done, so let's do it.
Thank you. Councillor Packham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, yes, it has to be done. It's great if it, in terms of the growth of GYRA, the LSPS, planning statements, this is all just one tool that comes into play, so we're not making decisions on the fly. We'll have that information at hand, and we can grow GYRA in the best way possible with full information. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, councillors, if there's no other comments, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Councillor O'Connor, where are you with that? Excellent. I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 12.1, security guarantee for NIWA. So Councillor Robinson has provided a notice requesting ARC provide a guarantee for a loan that NIWA wishes to undertake. So Councillor Robinson, I will throw to you to move a motion and also to provide context. Well, let's move a motion, get a seconder, and then...
Well, I did have a revised motion on the advice of the General Manager, if that could be brought up. And I have to confess, despite being supposedly numerical, I actually got my calculation wrong for the guarantee amount in item in point 3. It should actually be 382,275, if that could be corrected, please. Not there, no, in the bottom one, in 3. That should be 382,275. I did my spreadsheet calculation wrong. Terrible, terrible, terrible me. But otherwise, that's a motion that allows for a contingency if one or more of the, or if one member council can't get the guarantee in an appropriate period of time.
Okay, so...
Original motion.
So can I just to clarify, what Councillor Robinson has put up differs to what is in our business papers. And that is the motion that she has proposed. She needs a seconder for that. If that doesn't fly, then it'll go back to the original, but we now have a seconder. Councillor Witters on that. How about, Councillor Robinson, you speak to this? You might, if I could suggest, you might then want to vote in seriatim on a number of those things, because I dare say that there will be some input to this.
Well, I did wonder first if it would be possible to ask, sorry.
Sorry, I think I can pick up what Councillor O'Connor is saying, because I think one option is if this gets voted down, then we go back to what's on the papers as well. Anyway, I'll let you speak to your motion that has been seconded. Then we can have a discussion. Then we can go to a vote and then work out where we go from there.
Effectively, that would just be, if we do it in seriatim, it should be the same difference almost. It's just 3 that will be the different one. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Councillor Robinson, you don't wish to speak any further on this?
Well, what I did want to do is I had a little chat with the General Manager earlier about the cost of weeds to this local authority and how much it would cost to take over the functions if there were problems and something happened and you couldn't do it, carry out his functions. So maybe the General Manager would like to put a few words about that first, if he wants to, through you.
Yeah, sure. I'd be delighted to hear from you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Firstly, I've just got to say it's probably a little bit of a stretch to say that I gave you some advice earlier about particularly item 3, but we can come back to that later when that's up for discussion. I think the NIWA Weeds Authority and Act for 4 councils, as you know, Glen Innes, Yarralla, Walker and Armidale, and I think overall probably the value, we probably get pretty good bang for buck and value for money out of them as an organisation for the amount of money we pay. I think we pay probably circa about $315,000, $316,000 a year. If we can talk about service levels and all those sorts of things, and that's probably a different conversation in terms of the operations, but I think we get pretty good bang for buck for the amount of money that we pay. If we were to try and do that under our own steam, for an area the size of this regional council, I think you'd need a minimum of 2, probably 3 weeds officers. You're probably looking with overheads the best part of $120,000 to $130,000, perhaps a little bit, maybe even up to $150,000. And then you've got things like utes and spray rigs and all of the chemical and everything else that goes with that. So to set that up, I don't think you get much change out of $1 million, and then you've probably got ongoing costs each year of, in the realm of probably $500,000 to $600,000. So I think in terms of what we get from NIWA, for the amount of money that we pay, we're in pretty good shape, would be my estimation. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Councillor Witters, do you wish to speak to this? No?
What I was inviting the General Manager just to make some comments before I spoke to my motion.
Certainly you can speak to your motion, then we'll throw it to the other councillors.
Right, well, thank you. As everybody, as the General Manager has hinted, and I've seen from the newer general reports, weeds costs of the order of $1.8 billion a year in lost agricultural production and management throughout New South Wales. So this is a vitally, vitally important service that NUA does. And the problem, to some extent, NUA is encountering 2 problems. One is a very strange one about regulation, and people just, for some reason, there is a regulation that says that when a county council builds a building, it's not allowed to use that building as security. Now, I thought this is extraordinary. And so I phoned up the Office of Local Government and they confirmed it. And I suppose in this case, because that would be the normal state of affairs, if you're building a building and you've got a $2 million building, a $700,000 loan would be more than adequate security. But since there's this strange regulation, which nobody can understand, or at least I can't understand it, because the regulation actually says simply that county councils have to pay off loans and their interest as a charge on their income. It mentions nothing about security. So this took me by surprise, and I'm sure it took a few other people by surprise as well. But it's very, very hard to fight regulation. So what we simply should do is offer the guarantee, because I've looked at Newer's finances and I believe they are sound. I believe the income from the member contributions and the Weeds Action Programme are more than adequate to service a loan and even pay it off possibly quicker than 10 years if necessary. So basically, this is a very, very sensible thing to do, just to guarantee the loan. I would say it's in a 1 in a million chance that there will be any defaults on the loan. Now, the problem, of course, is that we're first in this, in the sense that I managed to get this notice of motion in a week just by the deadline, but some of the other member council haven't, and that might make it more difficult for them to meet all the obligations. So basically, my thought was that maybe we should have a contingency, and and if you like, we can vote on this in seriatim and just say that, you know, there's not a great deal of difference between a guarantee that we don't think will ever come across, will ever eventuate. So it doesn't really matter whether it's 316,000 or 382,000. Let's just say if there were a problem, then we'd have to have an extraordinary general meeting to approve the extra amount of money. And I don't think that's worth my time and your time. So hopefully we can just approve all four of the clauses. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Packham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, for fear of being embroiled in debate that may lose the intent of why this motion came forward, I do move that we vote this in seriatim, so that we can clear the matters that don't seem to be contentious, may appear to be not contentious, and we can debate the one that may be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Packham. Okay, well, let's continue continue the discussion. Then we'll go to the mover to see if she's happy to go in seriatim. But let's continue the discussion. Councillor O'Connor. Oh, Councillor Gadders,
Can I undo?
Now it's Councillor Redwood. Councillor
Am I speaking or not?
Yes, you are.
I am. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm on the Newer board as well as a delegate from this council, and I just want to support what Councillor Robinson said. This is unusual circumstances, but the project is sound. The finances are sound. This is not the request for anything other than a guarantee. I think it should all be sorted out very quickly, but we just need to support NEWA. As the General Manager has said, if we tried to undertake this task ourselves, we would be deeply out of pocket compared to what we pay. It's just very, very common sense, and it's actually no fault of NEWA's that they're in this position, as Councillor Robinson said, by dint of a very peculiar regulation, which is not unusual in the local government sector, and secondly, a little bit of slowness on the part of the release of government funding, which is, you know, just a matter of the tap being needing to be turned on and not sort of at a dribble as it is at the moment. Actions being taken, responsible actions being taken in that regard. So look, I just really encourage council to pass this, I would suggest, in a single motion and get moving to support the activities of NEWA, because they're desperate. You know, we can't afford to do them ourselves, so let NEWA get on with it. It's not the expenditure of any funds, it's just a security. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Gadders.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for me, I'm not sort of wanting to disparage the good work of NIWA in any way. I think they're doing a great job. But I do feel this is a little bit more than mum and dad going guarantor on a loan for their pups. In our formal briefing session on Monday on this particular item, it was mentioned that, Mr. General Manager, you were going to have a discussion with other general managers of the other 3 councils. If you're able to sort of shed a little bit more light, I haven't heard what's the outcome of that yet. If you're able to shed a little bit more light, it might help us with the decision. Obviously nothing that's commercial in confidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Gaze. Councillor Robinson, did you want me, as chair, do you want to talk about some of the fracas going on amongst the councils, or do you want me to do that?
Report what you've told me and what I've subsequently found, which is basically we know for certain that 2 of the member councils are going to put in call for extraordinary meetings and they've both assured me, the representatives from those councils, that they will not only put in their fair share, but they will also honour clause 3 that if there is a difficulty with one of the other councils, then they will actually increase their loan guarantee. So then the final thing is I did have a chat this afternoon with the mayor of the other council, and he was assuring me that they also would call an extraordinary meeting, and that all they wanted was 2 pieces of paper before the mayor would be in favour of it. Now that's what I was told anyway, so I'm arranging for those 2 pieces of paper to be forwarded to that mayor as soon as possible. So I'm hoping that we won't even need clause 3, that it will all go forward smoothly and completely. And the only other problem is, as you say, the DPI LLS funding has been delayed. So that's really why we're trying to get this funding and the guarantee as a matter of urgency, because the DPI funding for the 23-24, and we're already almost 8 months into that, has not arrived, and it's not going to arrive till April. So there is a bit of a cash through problem that this loan, proving it as soon as possible would really help.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Now, Councillor Gatt has asked a question of the General Manager around his discussions. Have your question been answered to your satisfaction?
To you, Mr. Mayor. There we go. Thank you. I guess I've got a follow-up to that if I'm allowed, but first of all, I just want to make sure we've got all the facts on the table. So is there anything else we need to add to that conversations with other council?
Back to Mr. General Manager, really, I guess it's Councillor Gatt is seeking to make sure that your conversations, to the extent that we need to know,
I did just want to give Councillor Robinson the opportunity to speak first to that. Well, the latest information I have is, so let's probably just put it all out there.
Sure, if you want to call a point of order.
Thank you. I just, intent and resolution are 2 vastly things, and I don't want to fall foul of misrepresenting another council in Armidale's chamber. And hence why I asked for in seriatim, because to say that one council might pull out or not support it, or it could be 2 or it could be 3 at the end of the day, we don't know at this point in time. So I guess my point of order is to give them the courtesy of their own representation and not to make a judgment call now on the personal conversations between Councillor Robinson and the GM for fear of misrepresenting another council in our district, which is another member council of NIWA.
Thank you. I note your point of order. I think the General Manager, appropriately cautioned, can make comment.
Happy to, yeah.
Sure.
So, well, to that, I mean, I can only tell you what the councils have told me, and that is, as far as I know to this point, Armidale seemed okay with it. 2 of the other councils are okay with it, and there's one of the councils that the information I had as early as earlier this afternoon was that it would be highly unlikely that they would be in support of going guarantor for this. So I think that's an important bit of information, Councillor Robinson, as to why there is now a potential request there for an increase in the guarantor amount should one of those councillors not be involved. So I think that that's important to lay that out. And Councillor Robinson, I think, has spoken to the mayor of said council that was against it, but I think just indicated there that he has said that he would vote for it, but I don't know that that necessarily means that the council, it will get through.
Okay, thank you.
Just a small reply to that is, again, it's not been resolutions of those said councils, so it's not set down. They haven't had their OCMs to actually vote on whether they would support it. So I don't want to. I'm reluctant to put that on the basis of that information. I don't want to lose the intent of why we're here to vote today, but I equally don't want to vote against it on the basis of misinformation or potentially misinformation that could be contained in item 3.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Redwood.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 questions, but I think I'll go to the second one and make a statement about it before I ask it. But to the point that Councillor Packham's just made here, the amended point 3 here, there's no guarantee attached to any of this. There's no guarantee that this chamber is going to say and agree to it at this point in time. So we may in fact find that there are 4 member councils that all disagree with the guarantor situation. So I don't know that, I mean, I understand what the intent of the amendment is and point 3 itself, but point 3 may not be enough to make up the balance. If 2 member councils don't or 3 member councils don't, Armidale could be left carrying the can for the entire amount, depending on how that goes, or none of it. So to me, I think it's actually, it's an argument that we can't have. I don't know that we can have any guarantee about the way that we go forward, and therefore I think that point 3 is not valid. There's no guarantee behind the amount that we should be putting forward because we don't know. We, as I repeat, we haven't made a decision, and the other councils haven't made a decision. And even if you've got personal guarantees, Councillor Robinson, from mayors or other councillors, until it hits their chamber and it goes for a vote, you don't know what the outcome's going to be. So I think it's, in some respects, it's risky putting the amended point 3 in there. The first question I had is, how does one end up in this situation? And I know that we've had briefings about it and we've had discussion, but it is interesting that you can find yourself at this point in time, at this juncture, where you're out with a begging bowl in effect, to be able to fund a building that's finished.
Thank you. Councillor Sorry, there was a question there. Are you happy to leave that question hanging, or?
I should have.
I'm guessing not. Councillor McMichael, can you just shut that off for a moment, please? Thank you. Councillor
Perhaps I could direct it to one of the members of the NSW board, maybe through the chair of the board.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson, unless you'd like Councillor Packham or Councillor O'Connor to answer that question.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to just talk to, almost as a right of reply to Councillor Redwood.
Councillor Redwood,
First point is that this council has been requested, the NSW council requested this council to item 1, 2 and 4, is that to assist with a guarantee, which will help with the financing, that it be our proportionate share based on our contribution to overall, the normal council contributions, yes, of which Armidale is already the lion's share. If you're talking about, like, in terms of share, it's 3 versus 1 versus 1. And that be authorised to help with that. And in the first instance, and the only instance, that was our request. Our request was to Armidale Council, guarantee it for this amount, being the proportionate share of contributions, and I think that's where we should set it for today. I'm not scared about having an ECM to come back if, should said other councils pull out, 2, 3, 1, doesn't matter. We did an ECM for the financial statements to note it, which took us all of 7 minutes. So I think even with the best intention, the point is if someone came back and say, look, could your share now be X, Y, Z? I think this council would have no problem coming together and joining, and you know, as the General Manager said, to stand this up would be another $2 million on our heads. It would cost $1 million a year for our LGA, and it just doesn't make sense. So we're playing our part, guarantee the building, which sits on our ground. Brilliant asset. The asset's always going to be rentable or given out to another. It's all funded. There's a shed. There's all office space. It fits perfectly into the scope of airside, alternate airside park businesses. But I think we've got to stick to what we were asked to do, and that's to vote on 1, 2 and 4.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In answer to Councillor Redwood's questions. Thank you. Councillor McMichael.
Councillor Redwood asked who we should be writing to. I frankly think we should be writing to the Department of Primary Industries, who aren't giving NIWA $700,000. We started this meeting with cost shifting, and here we are back again. Cost shifting, okay? Where's the $700,000 from the Department of Primary and Industries, okay? Okay, here we are. Local government asked to fund somebody who can't be bothered paying their bills, okay? Yay! Oh, we can't pay you from February. Oh, we can't pay you till April. Oh, we can't pay you till July. Oh, look, Christmas is coming. So's the Easter Bunny. Great. It's just terrific, isn't it? Meanwhile, our staff are busy, okay, writing grants, okay, overworked, underpaid, all that kind of stuff. Here we are attending meetings for grants and footpaths and all this kind of stuff that we might get if we're lucky. Oh, if we're lucky that we might get a few $100,000 or $20,000 for a youth event because our youth are lucky to like have some events, okay? And the DPI can't spend $700,000 giving a bill that they owe. Shame on them. Write to the DPI and tell them they owe us money because things. It's shameful. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Galletley.
I don't know, but there's too many that really get. I'm a bit confused. This is a dead set dog's breakfast. What? I'm glad staff didn't draw this one up, mate, because I tell you what, there'd be some people here that'd be yelling and screaming how bloody incompetent our staff are putting something together like this. At the end of the day, the contractor needs to be paid for the work that he's done. I don't know how we've got 3 members of our council here that are representing NIWA. If we can't get on top of it, I'm bloody sure that the other constituents of, or whatever, the other towns have got no chance of getting on top of it. What is going on? This is a bloody dog's breakfast. Look at the proposal that's been put here. I think we got an email at 2:34 trying to change things this afternoon. Come on, you fellas are better than that, aren't you? To put something forward at a late stage like that. The author of this, mate, this is bloody ridiculous.
Thank you. I think that's enough bloodies as well.
Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Witters. Thanks, Councillor Galletley.
Point of order, just for the language in the chamber. Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm sure in the Code of Conduct that's not required. The intent of this motion may have got lost in the discussion. There has been a lot of discussion on it. The members of this council that sit on NIWA have given their thoughts. The General Manager has also spoken on it. There's each single point of that is getting voted on its own. So if you don't like a single point, vote no. That's your democratic right. The other thing that we need to remember in this chamber is if someone comes up with a proposal and you don't like it, come up with something better. Don't just criticise it. Be better and give something else better.
Thank you. Councillor Packham, your light's back on.
It is. I just want to reply to Councillor Galletley just to give him a bit more context. And the context, a lot of the context was given in the Monday briefing, so I'm not quite sure where we need to go here. But in technical terms and questioning the 3 representatives of our colleagues today that sit on that council, is that the long-term financial plans of NUWA were put together by staff of NUWA. And they were endorsed by all the member councils, which indicated that there was sufficient funding, there was sufficient requests from DPI and the rest of it, and that their $500,000 was going to be in the bank, that the funding original funding for the loan would come from T Corp, and I expect that the General Manager of NUWA and the CFO of NUWA, who were investigating all those possibilities and putting that together and putting it before your 3 representatives in council for consideration, did so at the best of their thing. So what's going here today, and I'm also a little bit, the lateness of this, but it's still important. So it's important that we get the principle of what we've agreed to get together as a member. But yeah, I think that we've done the best that we can. There's things that happened. We can't. The DPI has been written to by the chair, the General Manager of NUWA, and representations have been made to Adam Marshall to say, please explain why they haven't done their funding. Why is this, as a member council, funding activities, like essentially cash flowing activities that are supposed to be funded by DPI, just to make sure that we keep on top of weeds in the broader district? So, I know that we're here today, but the best representations have been made, the best intentions have been brought forward. And just in the same way that this council voted $1 million over expenditure from an oversight in 90 days of approving a budget, unfortunate as it is, that's where we're at.
Thank you. Councillor Packham. Councillor Gadders, you'd asked a question originally, so what are we doing here?
I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I guess I was just going to concur with Councillor Witters that we do have the opportunity here to vote individually, and I think that's going to resolve this. I was also just, factoring a few things in my head that says an increment such as point number 3, if we do have other member councils pull out of this particular arrangement, let's say, we've probably got larger problems ahead of us. So in terms of voting for the baseline, I can see some sensible clause in that, considering it's already at a level that is budgeted from our spend to NIWA on an annual basis. But in terms of signing off on an increment, we're a little bit ahead on this. We're a little bit ahead of ourselves on our skates there, because we are the 1 out of 4 council to vote on this. It's a timing thing. They haven't had the opportunity to also have this level of discussion at this point in time. So I guess what I'm saying is number 3 is high risk, and if that is invoked, we're also in larger problems with NIWA. Thank you.
All right, councillors, let's put this to a vote. We'll do it in seriatim. Yes, you can.
I will be quick, but I will say that, there have been communications with the Minister for Agriculture, and also there is going to be a meeting with Adam Marshall with one of the member councils tomorrow, which may or may not help resolve the DPI LLS funding issue. And just to emphasise that this is a loan guarantee that will almost certainly never, ever be called on. And even if there were serious problems with NUWA, then as far as I can understand it, then basically the member councils would be called on anyway to pay the money. So it's probably better to avoid difficult and complicated situations. This is far, far simpler than anything else we can think of. So I believe that you should support the motion. Whether you support the contingency is a different matter. But if we don't, and there is a contingency, then we'll have to have another extraordinary meeting. So my suggestion would be that the difference between a almost zero chance of the loan being called on for a slightly higher amount and the actual original amount is immaterial. So let's just have that as a sensible contingency to save in the event that something happens and one of the other councils can't do something in time, or we can't find another option like using the building as security. It just saves a lot of bother and time, but that's up to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillors will vote in seriatim on this. So number 1 there, that council authorises the provision of a guarantee as security for the loan funding. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Then we're point 2 was that the amount be $316,828. Can we put that to the vote? All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 3, that the guarantee amount be increased to $382,275 in the event that one member council is unable to provide a guarantee within the required time frame. No other securities available. All those in favour? Hang on. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare that.
I'm having trouble understanding. So what we've got 316,000 we've agreed to.
Yes.
So we've got 316,000 we've agreed to. And so it comes in that we've got now we're changing that figure, are we?
No.
To 382.
No, sorry, councillors, I'll answer that because the question's to me. No, that is a contingency in the event that one member council doesn't pony up. So within the time frame.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I missed that.
Thank you. I think with that misunderstanding, let's vote on number 3. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare that lost. 7-4. And number 4, authorising the Mayor and General Managers to execute necessary documents. Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. All right. Thank you, councillors. That's 9.1. We now move to item 13.1, which is the Sports Council Committee and their minutes of the 5th of December 2023. There is a recommendation that the minutes be noted, that a number of club grants we endorse the committee supporting some grants to various clubs. The successful application of Candida Collins to the Sports Council Committee, and note the change to the Sports Council priority list. Now, Councillor Gilletley, I'll get you to move this, and
I'd like to move it, and it pretty well says it all. So it's been pretty busy, and everyone seems to be working well, and it's good that we've got someone else putting their hand up to be on our committee. So thank you.
Thank you. So that's Councillor Gilletley moving that. A seconder, please. Thanks, Councillor Gadders. All those in favour?
I'd like to talk to it first.
Would you?
Yes, I would. It's good to, and this is good to see Candida Collins on the council, Sports Council. Candida won a few awards last year in regards to her work with Narwhal and I think with rugby league. She's an asset to the community, general all around, and I really hope that her foray into the Sports Council leads to maybe her consideration to running for this desk, because I think she would be an asset in this chamber as well.
Terrific. Thank you. If there's no further comment, let's put it to the vote. All those in favour of endorsing those things? Thank you very much. Item 13.2, that was unanimous, by the way. Item 13.2, the Traffic Committee minutes from the 5th of December 2023. There's a very detailed recommendation on the screen, but I'll call for Councillor McMichael to move that motion and provide some context.
Yes, there are a number of motions and events. We've got new traffic things in Guyra. We have a significant number of events happening around town, including the Autumn Festival. And we've got Camp Draft. We had Camp Draft in January and we've got Camp Draft in March. I hope everyone's looking forward to the Autumn Festival. And and the other thing we're doing is that we're changing the spaces in the Visitors Information Centre and making more space for caravan parking. So people will note the different sizes of, we're reducing the number of car parks and making them bigger to make them for caravan parking. So yes, I'll move that.
Thank you. So that's Councillor McMichael's move that. Can I have a seconder for, thanks, Councillor Packham.
Can I speak to the item?
Yes, you can.
I think it's also important to note that item H up there, it might seem a little...
Sorry, Councillor Robinson and Councillor O'Connor. Can we? Thank you, Councillor Packham.
It might seem benign up there in writing, but the amount of accidents and rear-ended accidents that happen at that juncture, and caravans who are jackknifed and can't, have to mount the curb and get in there, and also now noting that the electric vehicle parking station is right there at that juncture, it puts all that infrastructure at risk. That actually is moving to one point of entry to that large park, and then being able to swing into these two additional caravan parks makes this much traffic flow much easier and safer for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gadders.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, if I could just ask Councillor McMichael a question. So obviously agree with all this, not just in terms of point C. I believe this was an item that was raised at one of our recent Gyra community meetings. Was that correct? Extending the 50-kilometre zone. I believe I remember that one came up as a suggestion from community up there in Gyra. Is that correct?
I believe so. So when it goes to the traffic committee, it has to go to Transport for New South Wales, and they've got various rules and regulations, and depending on what they say, that goes. So they'll investigate. So yes.
I guess just to close on a follow-up comment, it's great to see that feedback from those community meetings is moving forward and we get to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Councillors, if there are no further questions, and I'll assume that because there are no lights flashing, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour of that motion? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, just one final item in this open session, and that is it's a report. It's a response to a question on notice from Councillor Robinson in relation to the reported system, and we're being asked to note that a response will be provided at the March OCM. So, Councillor Robinson, you might move that and just provide a bit of context.
Yeah, I move it.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor O'Connor. Wish to speak to it, Councillor Robinson?
Well, all the reasons for putting the notice of question on notice are in the business paper, so I encourage people to read it, and I'll look forward to the answer in the next council meeting.
Terrific. Thank you. Councillor O'Connor, no, thank you. Any other councillors? Right, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors and everyone, that brings us to the end of the open session. We now need to enter a closed session of council. So can I please have a motion to move into a closed session if resolved? Ask everyone to leave. Thank you. Councillor Robinson is moved it. Councillor McMichael seconded it. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. We will move into a closed session.
computer died, Mr Mayor, so I'll have to read it from your computer. Thank you.
We back on?
We good?
Councillors, I welcome you back into the open session. I'll ask the General Manager to read out the resolutions of the closed session.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. One item in confidential, item 15.1, the Public Works tender recommendations for Armidale and Gyra Sale Yards infrastructure upgrade. Resolved by Council that, as per clause 178.3 of the Local Government Regulations, Council endorsed the Public Works Authority tender recommendation for direct negotiations with the most advantageous tender, identified as Shea Brennan Constructions Proprietary Limited, for the Gyra and Armidale Sale Yard upgrade RFT 10053871, and as provided by New South Wales Public Works. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Terrific news. Thank you, Mr General Manager. Councillors, there being no further business, I declare this meeting closed at 6:06 p.m. Thank you.